Thank you, Tim. I would like to start off by thanking Eli for this forum to discuss my research. Um, so I'm Ananta from Professor Harry Miller's group in University of Bristol, and today I would like to talk about this particular protein ROJ and its role in the process of formation of new blood vessels, something we call angiogenesis. The process of angiogenesis is actually a very complicated multi-step process wherein endothelial cells, the cells that we see in green here, are supposed to undergo a dramatic change in shape and polarity, whereby they acquire a lot of new properties that help them to respond to the call of tissues to make new blood vessels, which can come out in the form of growth factors. So this change is also accompanied by the ability now to remodel extracellular matrix, which is lacking in the quiescent blood vessels. So this is something that we are really interested in. And we are interested in a group of proteins that enable cells to generally change shape and polarity, which are the Rho-GTPase family of proteins. So I would like to go from here to one of our most intriguing observations, which is on this family of proteins of Rho-GTPases, of which the most well-studied member is this protein CDC42. It is well expressed in all tissues of our body. However, it has undergone duplication in the vertebrate lineage to give rise to ROJ, which is much less studied and is mostly only present in the endothelial cell. So it's a lineage specific protein. As we can imagine, being duplicated, these two proteins share quite a lot of amino acid similarity, and we would expect them to function also in a similar way. However, we found that they are actually working in diametrically opposite directions when it comes to the ability of cells to remodel the extracellular matrix and make new fibrils, something we call fibrillogenesis. So how did we come to this observation? We had initially started off the project to understand ROJ better, which is a much less studied protein. And we just looked at how ROJ and CDC42 can be distributed in a primary endothelial cell. And what strikes us immediately is that ROJ is present in these vesicles, these large vesicles, as well as small ones all over the cell body, which is a distribution quite dramatically different from CDC42. In order to utilize this distribution change to uncover new roles of ROJ, we took a rather challenging approach to purify these vesicles from primary cells containing ROJ and see what sort of proteins are enriched in these vesicles. So this is an approach that we call vesicle proteomics, where we can separate out the plasma membrane pool of ROJ from the vesicular pools by using a density gradient ultracentrifugation and follow that up with pulling out vesicles containing ROJ, which was tagged with GFP, using a particle sorter, and then take it through mass spectrometry to understand what sort of proteins are enriched in ROJ vesicles. So this approach gave us a lot of integrins, which are proteins that bind the cell to the matrix. And one of our topmost hits is this protein, alpha 5 beta 1 integrin. And this integrin binds to fibronectin as its ligand and is important for the process of angiogenesis. We were very happy to see that actually the co-localization at the vesicular pool of ROJ and alpha 5 is very good. In fact, 75% of the vesicles co-localize, suggesting that our approach to purify ROJ positive vesicles have worked. Now, having these two proteins together in the same vesicle may mean ROJ can regulate the trafficking of alpha 5 beta 1, or they might be just passively co-trafficking. In order to distinguish this, we actually modulated the levels of ROJ and saw whether it affects the levels of alpha 5 beta 1 or its distribution in the cell. Unfortunately for us, with multiple approaches, ROJ did not alter the levels or distribution in multiple different approaches of alpha 5 beta 1. This suggested that maybe ROJ is just passively co-trafficking with alpha 5 beta 1. However, literature suggests that actually alpha 5 beta 1 comes in two different flavors. You could have this bent integrins which are not bound to ligands, or you could have this stretched out integrins with their tails apart, which are actually bound to ligand. Now, we know from literature that the active integrins are a very small pool of the total, but they are the ones that actually spend a lot of time in vesicles because they have to get rid of their ligand at the low pH of vesicles, and then they can be reused. So basically, we then asked, okay, is there a change in the active integrin alone when we modulate ROJ? Here, indeed, we could see that when we deplete cells using an siRNA of Roje, we can see there is an increase in the level of active alpha 5 beta 1 alone. And we have seen that there is no change in totals. So this really means that there's a conformation specific change when we alter Roje. We have also taken multiple approaches to prove that Roje is indeed conformation specific. And I then had the opportunity to do some cool trafficking essays with Professor Jim Norman at the Beesons, who has pioneered this assay wherein we can actually look at internalization and chase the fate of integrins by biotinylating them at the plasma membrane and watching taking an approach wherein we can see how they are internalized into the cell at different time points. When we deplete Roje, that's the green line here, we can see that the internalization rate alone is actually doubled, and this is true only for the active conformer and not, again, it does not affect the total alpha 5 beta 1. So basically these experiments prove that the internalization, the point at which the receptor enters the cell, is modulated when Roje is not there, and Roje seems to be putting a brake to this process. Now, why would this be important for an endothelial cell? We know from literature that this process of trafficking is really important to build fibrils. So it is coupled to the ability of cells to actually direct fibronectin to places where these long fibrils would be weaved. So from this data, our expectation is that when we put a brake on this process, which Roje does, there would be much less fibrillogenesis. Indeed, that is really true. When we have depletion of Roje, there is the ability of cells to lay out these fibrils is markedly improved, and the converse is true when we express Roje in its active state. Now, this was a point where we were again surprised because, as I mentioned, Roje arose from the ancestral CDC42 gene, and here we know from literature and as well as our work that CDC42 is a positive regulator of fibrillogenesis. If you deplete CDC42, you get much less fibrillogenesis. This brought us to the question, how do two proteins which are very similar to each other regulate the process of fibrillogenesis in diametrically opposite directions? To understand this, we first thought that Roje might have unique binding partners in the endothelium that might help us explain why this is true. So we undertook a study of binding partners in a quantitative way, where we looked at Roje and CDC42 binding partners in endothelial cells using TMT mass spectrometry. Again, we were very disappointed to find no unique partners of Roje. Actually, Roje bound to pretty much everybody that CDC42 bound to. In fact, we could find CDC42 binding partners that were just unique to CDC42, but not Roje. It's more recent protein. So the protein we decided to follow up was this protein PAC3, which bound really nicely to Roje, but even better to CDC42. To cut a long story short, PAC3 actually behaves exactly like CDC42. It is a promoter of fibrillogenesis. So PAC3 alone enables cells to form fibrils, as also quantified here in a different way. But if you put Roje on top of PAC3, it changes direction. In the sense, PAC3 alone drives fibrillogenesis. Roje plus PAC3 is an inhibitor of fibrillogenesis, although there is a slight improvement from Roje alone. So what all of these data together suggests to us is that PAC3 might be quite limiting in the cell. If PAC3 is available to CDC42, there is more fibrillogenesis. And when PAC3 is taken away from CDC42 by Roje, the process is inhibited. So basically, two proteins which are very similar to each other can also drive processes in opposing directions through the same shared effectors if they can compete for the same effectors. Of course, all of this data is actually from in vitro growth of primary endothelial cells. We wanted to know whether this is true in vivo as well. So we collaborated with Professor Akiyoshi Omera in Japan, and they have done this beautiful experiment with Roje knockout mice, where we are looking at pictures of retinal angiogenesis, and we can clearly see here that the fibronectin deposition at the angiogenic front here is much more when we do not have Roje. This suggests that indeed Roje is a negative regulator of fibronectin fibrillogenesis. So what does this all mean to angiogenesis per se? We think that Roje activity has to be actively inhibited when the cells have to form these fibrils, when they are sprouting. And this is exactly what one of the growth factors does. And indeed, it has to be reactivated when we have to again stabilize the vessel and form lumen. So this is a brief overview of my work in Professor Harry's group, and it will appear online in a couple of days. So kindly do check out our paper or to know more about this. I would like to stop here and I would like to thank Eli firstly for this opportunity, and I would like to thank my mentors, Professor Harry Miller and Professor Jim Norman, and our funding bodies and collaborators. Thank you so much. I can take questions now.
Hey, thanks very much indeed, Nantha. So I concede that that I'm not brave enough to ask any of my own questions to you, because it is a long way from anything I know about. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions that you've kindly prepared for me. So first, what's the role of other PAC family members, PAC1 and PAC2, in this process?
Thanks, Tim, for asking the question. So basically, PAC3, the PAC3 is a part of a large family of proteins, PAC1 to 6. So basically, we found that PAC1, which is also highly expressed in endothelial cells, also might play a role. It's also competed for, but not to the same extent as PAC3. So PAC1 is also important, but PAC2 does not seem to even though it's expressed in endothelial cells, PAC2 is not important in this process at all.
Cool. And so Shivani has a question for you. Shivani, can you unmute? And
yeah, I'm unmuted.
Cool.
So is the phenotype of Roje knockout similar to CDC42 in mice?
Oh, that's a really nice question. Actually, CDC42 being the ancestral protein, it's way more important in angiogenesis than Roje. So if we knock out CDC42, the mice have a very early embryonic death because they cannot make blood vessels right from the beginning. Whereas for Roje knockout mice, the effect is much more delayed. So they have a delayed angiogenesis phenotype in the adults. And this difference actually suggests that they have unique functions. So which we have not understood as yet. But indeed, as an ancestral protein, CDC42 has a much higher effect on angiogenesis than Roje, and they don't seem to be compensating for each other.
Thank you.
Cool. So another prepped question from Anantha. So can it happen that Roje and CDC42 are active simultaneously? And if so, what happens to fibrillogenesis? Actually, before you answer that, we have a new question, but maybe you should answer this instead because it's not from you. So it's from Vinod. Vinod, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I'm unmuted. I hope you can hear me.
Hi,
so
Vinod.
firstly, it's a very nice talk, Anantha, an excellent collaborative initiative. I was wondering if the Roje mutant mice are actually viable, because I thought you were showing the retina in one of the slides.
Yes.
And if they are viable, are there other effectors that can compensate during development?
Yeah, so like I was mentioning in the previous answer, basically Roje knockout mice do not have any phenotype until they reach adulthood. So there is a slight delay in angiogenesis. So they are completely viable. They are completely fertile. The mice are absolutely fine. We believe that the CDC42 knockout mice are actually embryonically lethal because of angiogenesis defects, and that does not seem to be compensatable by Roje. So the delay in angiogenesis that Roje causes is, of course, in CDC42 wild type background. So there seems to be unique functions that these two proteins do not compensate for.
Cool.
Thank you.
Great. Did you want to go and back and ask about whether Roje and CDC42 are active simultaneously, and if so, what happens?
That I should actually say that that's a pretty lame question from my own side, but yeah. So what we know from very recent studies, actually, our collaborators are also doing work on how Roje gets activated, and not much is known in the field as such. So basically, what we think is that there is this a temporal sequence. So we need Roje to be really active in the quiescent blood vessel. And that's important because if you have fibronectin deposition in a quiescent vessel, that's very atherogenic. So you don't want fibronectin fibrillogenesis to happen in a quiescent vessel. And then you want it to happen suddenly when there is angiogenesis. And then you have to stabilize the vessel again when the vessel formation is complete. So we believe that there is a switch between the Rho GTPases at all of these points, and they should not be simultaneously active, basically. So this is what the most of the growth factors do. VEGF activates CDC42, inhibits Roje, and there are now more reports from our collaborators that there are more stimuli that kind of switch between the two Rho GTPases.
Cool, brilliant.